So Warhammer 40K lore moves forward. Let's talk through Vashtorr's assault on the Rock and the narrative consequences of Arks of Omen Vashtorr. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking Dark Angels versus Demons, and I thought we'd do a short summary of the lore from Arks of Omen Vashtorr, purely because it's kind of interesting to see where Games Workshop's going with their narrative story next. So far in Arks of Omen, we basically have Abaddon and Vashtorr setting out to break the galaxy into bits to find a key, a mysterious super weapon that's going to tip the balance of power. They now have the vast majority of the pieces of the artifact, and one of the hardest ones to acquire was found in the Angron book, based at the bottom of some Imperial fortifications that Vashtorr encouraged Angron to go and break, destroying a mini Astronomicon as a reward to Khorne and plunging a great area of the galaxy into murderous Khornate bloodlust. It turns out in this book that one of the other last fragments is, perhaps not surprisingly, aboard the Fortress Monastery of the Rock, and this one's hinted to be perhaps the last piece that he needs to assemble the artifact and awaken its full potential. With the shadowy technology of the Dark Angels, their Fortress Monastery the Rock is notoriously hard to track down, an enormous battle station that can navigate the galaxy very quickly indeed, and travels with a great fleet of attendant Dark Angels vessels. Such is the importance of this particular quest that Vashtorr's leading it himself, and he's not delegating it out to one of the many lieutenants that he and Abaddon entrusted their looted Space Hulks to. To find the Rock, Vashtorr starts by leading an assault on an Imperial listening post, a research station of the Ordo Astartes, a minor branch of the Inquisition that's dedicated to rooting out corruption and heresy within the ranks of the Space Marine chapters and ensure that they're towing the line and not falling to heresy. One of their Inquisitors was using an Archaeotech device to keep tabs on the Dark Angels' Fortress Monastery. Suspicious as many are that the Dark Angels seem to have something to hide, such as their reputation for secrecy. Vashtorr learns of the location of the station and then proceeds to slaughter his way through it, aided by some Alpha Legion disguised as a Death Watch kill team, and gets his claws on the Archaeotech device. When he reaches it, it turns out that this is in fact a rogue abominable intelligence from the Dark Age of technology, and rather than just bending it to his will, Vashtorr agrees to strike a deal with it, allowing it to be ensconced in an Ark of Omen in exchange for locating and tracking the Rock. With his target acquired, Vashtorr gathers his fleet together. It contains a large contingent of Black Legion Chaos Space Marines gifted by Abaddon, plus a force of murderous Iron Warriors that have been bargained for with Perturabo, the book hinting that they do have a loose alliance of sorts. Perhaps not the most unexpected there, he does like his technology and innovation. With his Space Marines plus many of the demonic thralls, Vashtorr leads his assault. The Dark Angels are currently unaware that they're being monitored, and have basically been summoned by Samael and the Raven Wing to reinforce a conflict where the traitors are believed to be fallen Dark Angels. The Ultramarines under Chief Librarian Tigurius are battling against this foe, down on the planet's surface. Without announcement, the Rock and its attendant fleet manifests in real space. It's under the command of Chief Librarian Ezekiel, Azrael recently having undergone Primaris surgical enhancement. It seems that the Dark Angels are getting over their suspicion of the Primaris technology. Of course though, now Vashtorr knows their location, he is able to ambush the Rock, the Chaos Fleet just warping into real space directly behind the Dark Angels. He's got the Ark of Omen that's controlled by the AI, plus an enormous fleet of other vessels and gunnery, probably enough to outnumber and overcome the Dark Angels with his combined forces. As this is the boarding actions campaign, they have a lot of details as a big battle in the void with plenty of boarding actions and ship-to-ship combat, and the Rock and the abominable intelligence-controlled Ark of Omen engage each other, two great vessels of somewhat comparable size and dangerousness. Vashtorr's not necessarily bothered about winning the overall battle, but mainly just wants to get his key fragment out of the Rock while he has chance. He takes down the Rock's shields and leads a teleport and warp portal assault onto the Rock, with demons and the Black Legion and Iron Warriors engaging the Dark Angels in hand-to-hand combat throughout the ship. A few of the major Dark Angels characters make an appearance, but there's no surprise deaths or characters killed off in this one. It sounds like the Dark Angels basically give about as good as they get, a fairly even battle without one side triumphing massively, and in the confusion Vashtorr tries to make for the heart of the Rock and try and get his hands on some secrets and his artifacts. Making for the relic, Vashtorr and his forces are stopped by Azrael, fresh out of Primaris surgery and maybe not at 100% strength yet, but ready to try and put down a Chaos God regardless. They fight before a door called the Nameless Gate, presumably plenty of secrets of the Dark Angels held behind it. The fight broadly goes Vashtorr's way. Powerful as he is, Azrael himself isn't strong enough to hold back a Chaos Demigod. However, when it does look like Vashtorr is getting the upper hand, all of a sudden all the lights go out on the Rock, and battle is joined by a new foe. Arriving to try and spoil Vashtor's day is none other than Be'lakor, the Dark Master, demon god of Chaos Undivided, and Games Workshop have previously mentioned that he is a sort of similar rank and stature demon to Vashtorr in the lore, an unaligned demigod who's abnormally powerful. He brings with him his shadowy cult alignment of Chaos Demons and Chaos Space Marines. They arrive through warp portals and fight against the followers of Vashtorr aboard the Rock, thoroughly blunting their offensive, giving the Dark Angels extra time to regroup and re-attack, and Vashtorr and Be'lakor fight each other, neither one of them really gaining the upper hand, but Be'lakor well and truly distracting Vashtorr from being able to focus on his main prize, and the entire tide of his offensive is lost, the Dark Angels gaining a lot of ground and re-establishing their defensive parameters. Be'lakor doesn't really make his reasons particularly clear, other than seeming to just generally want to mess up Vashtor's plans. I guess as great rivals they don't really want either of them getting too far ahead of each other in the great game. Be'lakor's forces withdraw and leave just as the relief force of the Ultramarines arrives from the planet side. Chief Librarian Tigerius leads a combined assault force, casting down remaining demons and taking many Iron Warriors and Black Legion prisoner, before withdrawing from the Rock back to their own battleships. Vashtorr is forced to retreat, his plans foiled, and the Dark Angels get to work with the interrogation that they like best, putting the prisoners under their gentle administrations of their chaplains, getting the location where Vashtorr and Abaddon are hiding, and constructing their superweapon. However, following the battle, it becomes clear that Vashtorr and Abaddon are perfectly happy with this. Having failed to take their fragment of the key in the surprise assault, they now realise that the only way to get their hands on it is to draw the Dark Angels out to them, lure them out and overextend them, and hopefully they can have a second round of the fight. Seems kind of possible that they could draw them out somewhere with the hint of Fallen amassing somewhere. I feel like that's going to get the Dark Angels running at any stage. And I guess if they are embattled once more, the Dark Angels would lack the support of nearby friendly Ultramarines, and hopefully the impudent Be'lakor showing up to ruin Vashtor's day out of spite. Unfortunately, they don't really reveal anything more about the nature of the key and their plans overall, which I think is maybe a little bit disappointing given that this was the book that's kind of setting up Vashtor's schemes and focusing on him. There's just a bit of vague text about Abaddon musing about what they're looking for and being unwilling to speak the name of the key fragment that they're trying to find. Overall, I feel like maybe not too dissimilarly from the first one, it might be a book that hints a lot more than it really gives us. I've seen a fair few people mentioning on Reddit and things that it does ring a bit similar to other narrative plots that the Dark Angels have had in the past. Chaos has made incursions into the Rock a couple of times before now. The last time, though, it led to the slightly bigger plot development of Luther being released on the galaxy, and only Azrael know that he's out and about and leading fallen Dark Angels somewhere, no doubt. I guess with a narrative focusing around the Dark Angels quite so much, there might well be a bit of scope for expanding on that and finding out what the Fallen are up to. I feel like while it is quite cool to see Vashtorr in action, again it hasn't really been a book that's answered any real fundamental questions about the overarching series. They don't really talk very much about their key. There's no major hints about the lion being awoken somewhere on the Rock, something that I probably thought they would have alluded to at least a little bit in the book, and there's not really any more details as to the activities about the Fallen, other than them being active in the area. Basically, overall, Vashtorr's attacked the Rock, not really got anywhere with it or caused any major lasting damage, and then being repelled by a combined force of the Dark Angels, Be'lakor ambushing him, and then the Ultramarines swooping in to finish the job. It does fit in pretty well with their teaser hints that they've been dropping on the Arks of Omen tarot things. The last cards were the Demon one, and then Astartes and Lightning Tower, basically referencing the Dark Angels and their fortress. And then it seems that the Demon Inverse card hinted at Be'lakor turning up to ruin Vashtor's day. Perhaps the most unexpected development out of the book, I suppose. I guess that leaves us with the next book being Commander Farsight. It'll be interesting to see how he keys in with the narrative somehow. I feel like maybe that might be a bit of a mini subplot similar to the Angron one, perhaps. Games Workshop's lore teasers sound like he's fighting orcs, then goes off to the chaos-tainted world where he found his Dawnblade. The last tarot card out of the sequence that we had here was the Tree of Life. I wonder if that's hinting at some way that they might gain some technology to do something major in the lore. Maybe kind of similar to how the Inari wound up waking up Rabute Gilliman from his slumber in the Gathering Storm series. If the Farsight and the Enclaves are in some way responsible for the return of the Lion, that would be quite an interesting shake-up. Let me know your thoughts though. What do you make of the lore of Arks of Omen so far? I'd say that this one was maybe a little bit more predictable than some of the others, but definitely sets the stage for some interesting developments after it. I'll certainly try and keep up with the series as it comes out anyway. Hopefully we'll do a couple more similar videos for this for the last two books. It'll be good to get the major questions of the series answered. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that links down in the video description below if you're interested in supporting. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.